Hello and welcome to Eddie V Live. I'm your host, Eddie V, and this is Monday of Holy Week. So, welcome to Monday of Holy Week, everybody out there. Hope it is starting off well. We're meditating on the Lord's Passion, we're preparing for it, starting on Thursday with the Lord's Supper. I just wanted to get in here on this Holy Week, this Monday of Holy Week, and talk a little bit about self denial. That's what I've been thinking about today. Self denial, kind of related to a lot of our episodes. I'm realizing that a lot of my content is basically being like stuff you should avoid, especially media. So I do want to turn it around eventually and get into sort of the positive. I've mentioned some positive stuff we can do for the culture to establish Catholic culture, and really Catholic culture revolves around the people, how the people are doing, what they do, how they do it, how they think. Incarnate belief, incarnate creed is the culture. But right now I've been focusing on what we what we should be avoiding, and I will focus more on that today. Before I get into that, kind of funny, maybe a little hypocritical of me. I was just telling you guys recently, I think on Saturday, you know, maybe the movies aren't it. Maybe we need to cut out most of the movies, just have good, wholesome movies that we can go to and kind of cut out most of the trash. And the trash is not a sense wait, not necessarily just modern 21st century stuff. I've seen trash from a while back. So it's not specific to a time. It is true that the modern stuff not only is like degenerate, but it's like degenerate without any good plot or anything going on. Great visuals usually in a degenerate way and in just a regular way. So kudos to the modern movies for that. Obviously, a lot of computer generation stuff and just new technology is also a part of it. But I was just talking about that. And then today I just I just watched an episode of Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown, which I just told you guys. I'm doing it for research. I don't know if you guys will believe me. I'm doing it for research. You have to trust me on that. I'm not a huge, I think he's like a travel cooking blog guy based on that one episode. And I know he allegedly killed himself, which is sad. But yeah, I'm not super into that subject topic. I wouldn't just watch it just for fun. It was interesting. But I'm going to get into why I mentioned it. I'm just doing this for research because, famous guy. He's got a good show, a popular show, I guess. And I'm watching this show, and it's about Rome. It's just about Rome. I think he said it's like about the people of Rome and the food of Rome. And it was so degenerate. It was crazy. I was like, this is supposed to be a cooking show. And it just has all of the worst stuff about it. So that was rough. It's well made. I don't want to slander it that way, but it was very degenerate. Very degenerate, not in a normal way, but degenerate for a cooking show. A show you go in and you just think it's going to be about food, and it just happens to have all this craziness surrounding it. And they're in Rome, the eternal city, and they can't speak of. I think they speak of Catholicism only once, and it's like in a negative light. And it was even the conversation about that was so degenerate. It was crazy. By degenerate, I mean like morally depraved. That's what I'm getting at. So that was interesting. And I'm seeing my people. I'm half Italian. I'm seeing all my people. They're like Anthony Bourdain's going through, the Catholic, well, not the Catholic, I shouldn't say that, the Italian working class areas of Rome. And God bless these people. I hope they're okay. But the moral rectitude might not be there. It might not be there. I'm not going to lie to you. So that was pretty rough. But, still got a lot of good research because it was about research. But I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, if, besides the research, I'm not going to really watch that. It's just not worth it. And that kind of gets me into what I want to talk about today. We're in Holy Week. So we really need to consider, and people don't like to do this nowadays. People think this is dramatic. I don't even know, too trad or something. I think that's ridiculous. There is a huge tradition in the church, but thinking about death, thinking about judgment, heaven and hell. And I think as we're considering maybe some of the stuff I'm talking about, getting out of different types of media, not watching things that everyone watches, maybe alluding to the movie stuff I talked about and TV shows and stuff, is these things that we avoid, it could be seen as cross and different things like that. But is it worth it for heaven? This life is so temporary. And us Catholics, we know how to have fun. Historically, we know how to have fun. But we need to have fun in a very um in a very focused way, in a way that does not threaten our eternal salvation. So thinking of it that way is we need to get better at self-denial. Even things that are maybe illicit, allowed, if we think that it can be dropped, let's just drop it. But let's remember to celebrate. We love to celebrate. But I'm encouraging people this Holy Week to think of things in our lives, not necessarily just the movie stuff. I know we've been focusing on the movie stuff, but anything we can get rid of in our lives that just is just not necessary in relation to eternal salvation. So I think recreation is actually very helpful to eternal salvation. And luckily for me, St. Francis of Sales, whom I love and I really enjoy reading because I feel like he's a very balanced figure when it comes to the spiritual life. And he's talking specifically to lay people, which is super helpful. But he talks about we need recreation. We need good recreation. That is actually key in the spiritual life. But we need to know what good recreation is. We don't want to participate in recreation that's going to threaten our moral rectitude, our spiritual life, our relationship with God. So he talks about different things in relation to that. He talks about even games, dancing, different things like that. I'm blanking right now on the other stuff he was talking about, but all these things, and take everything, sports, take all of these things and put it together. And we need to be aware that recreation is good, but no recreation is worth our eternal salvation. So he gives examples of this. He's literally talking about like chess, and he's talking about how chess is great. It activates the mind, but it can be very light. It can be very fun. But then he's also saying that with some people, they shouldn't play chess because they take it too seriously. It actually bothers them. They get absorbed in it. And he's like, that's not recreation then at that point, that you're obsessing over it. It becomes more than recreation. So we need to really find things that are truly relaxing, truly can put us at ease. We need to not be obsessed with those things. And those things are good. So I wanted to preface with that. But there are a lot of things in our lives that we just don't need. We have recreation. We don't need more of it. It's just distractions in our life. And I think that is a great point from St. Francis of Sales. And I think that we as a church, as Christians, can really reflect this Holy Week on what we can get rid of and fill our lives with other things, with holy things, right? And I think this practice of self-denial in general, so that's specific, thinking about things we can get rid of, but thinking of self-denial in general, I think self-denial is essential for a happy life. And let me tease that out a little bit. I don't know where you guys are at. I think everyone at a certain point has to come to some sort of like personal conversion. Even if you're raised religious, if you're raised Catholic, you still have to come to a personal conversion. I think that is a true statement. So before that personal conversion, we can come to a realization that we're maybe not complete, we're maybe not self mastering of ourself. And I think that's for myself, because I was so far away from God, that realization that I wasn't a master of myself, I could see a lot of my discontent in life and a lot of my maybe even like annoyance with the world and with myself was coming from this idea that I wasn't mortified, that I wasn't dead to the things of the world. And people don't like the sound of that because that doesn't sound fun. It doesn't sound enjoyable. Oh, you're dead to the world. You don't enjoy anything. But I would argue, based on my personal experiences, that once I became, I'm not perfectly mortified or anything like that, but once I focused on that, being mortified to different things, I actually am able to enter into them more and enjoy them more. So, for example, food. I For a year, I went on the carnivore diet. You've probably heard of that before. And this was back in 2018. So just a little bit before it got super popular, maybe, possibly. I wasn't really online much at that point. But I did the carnivore diet, and I did 1 meal a day. So 1 meal a day carnivore was like a steak every night, maybe like a pound to 2 pounds of meat every day, usually grilled, rare, blue, and with salt. That's pretty much it, and water. And I thought it was delicious, but you're eating the same thing and you're pretty hungry and you're not having carbs. It's pretty wild. And I would argue, just in that experience, in the beginning, it was tough, but once I got used to it, I found myself kind of freed just physically from the constraints of having to collect all this different food and prepare it. Obviously, a restaurant can do that for you. Um, but I was freed even from going to the restaurant. The restaurant's kind of you can consider maybe a hassle, but it is something to do. And I was freed of the physical constraints, but I was also, more importantly, freed in like a spiritual, mental sense, where my life was very simplified, and it did bring me a lot of joy in that sense. And then thirdly, it brought me joy in the sense that I was able to get to a point where I was so self-mastered in terms of food that I knew that I could go the rest of my life just eating 1 to 2 pounds of meat every night. And that was very freeing. That meant that I was free from food, the flavor, the satisfaction element. I was freed from this basic constraint of life, right? We need food and it's delicious and we love it. I was free from that. And on top of that, I also found that once I got back into eating other foods, I enjoyed them so much more. The flavors were popping, so distinct. Every different thing tasted differently and just popped in my taste buds. And that was, I see people, they're scarfing down all this food, different flavors, different types of food, and it's like they can't even taste it. Nothing satisfies them. And then for me, I can have like a one little blueberry, and I'm like, oh wow, that's beautiful. I don't need more of it. I don't need less of it. It was amazing, and I can really control the intake of my food, and it brings me a lot of joy, which I didn't experience before. I could eat a ton of stuff and still not be happy. And so I want to break this notion. First, I want to encourage self-denial as just a general spiritual principle, but I want to break this notion of self-denial as this something that makes you like depressed. It's just like there's just like monks sadly whipping themselves in the woods somewhere, and that's what people think of self-denial. And I'm like, no, like Saint Anthony, you can read his biography by Saint Athanasius. Saint Anthony was known as a very cheerful guy. He's living in the desert. He's fighting demons all the time. He's barely eating. And when people interact with him, they're like, it's so delightful to talk to him. It's so delightful. And then maybe a example closer to home is St. Thomas More. He's a layman. Obviously, he gets very high in the food chain in terms of being the Chancellor of England. But he's a layman. He's a lawyer. He has a family. He has 4 kids. He has a wife, and then he has a second wife when his first wife dies. And he's able to get to this point where he's the happiest guy. Everyone you should see what Erasmus says about St. Thomas More. He's like, this guy sounds amazing to hang out with. But he's so mortified. He's fasted. He won't say a mean thing about anyone. He's very delightful and courteous all the time. Very staunch in the truth, very creative mind, very talented, but also very mortified. And he's just, as his contemporaries contest, he's so delightful to be around. And he's so joyful. He's even joyful when he's going to get his head chopped off. He's cracking jokes, different things like that. That is self-denial. That's what self-denial can open up for us. It's the key that can unlock that part of the spiritual life where it's like any situation you're in, if you have self-mastery through the grace of God, through prayer, through fasting, through abstaining, through giving of yourself, through almsgiving, you're so joyful. And you actually enjoy life more. It's not some placebo. It's not some fake spiritual guru trick. It's just the reality of life. It's how God made it. And I think it's really exemplified in that saying that of Jesus in the Gospels, he who finds his life will lose it. He who loses his life for my sake will find it. People that deny themselves for the sake of the Lord, they actually find life. They find joy. They find Jesus. It's just a profound reality of the spiritual life and just life in general. So on this Monday of Holy Week, I really want to encourage that. And St. Francis of Sales, this is in his book, Introduction to the Devout Life. I really encourage it. I might have mentioned it before in these episodes, and I'll probably mention it 1,000 times in the future. But I recommend reading it. And he talks about some of the stuff. Very delightful read. He's not like beating people over the head with a club saying you suck. He's really going through the different things of life for a lay person and kind of evaluating it and tell them the best path to move forward. And he's so gentle. He is so gentle, and he just wants to lead you to peace. And maybe that's one of the main keys too, is joy through a healthy spiritual life, through self-denial and other things too. It's not just about self-denial, but through the actual spiritual life that Jesus wants to enter into. But it's peace too. Everyone's looking for peace. We're always reaching, I do this all the time. I have a smartphone now, and I'm always reaching for it to like fill in this like discontent that I have with the present moment. It's like, chill, have peace. And self-denial, I think, can really help with this. So that's self-denial, Monday of Holy Week. I do want to get into some more positive stuff, but I'm really trying to just pray and kind of just speak what God wants, what God is putting on my heart that day. And it kind of is like for me almost. Like I'm saying things to you. I'm like, oh, you need to be self-denial. But that's the stuff that God is speaking to me as well, to me personally. And I think that's what I can speak to best. So hopefully, God will put on my heart some positive things we can do. But right now it's almost about lightening the load of the things that we don't need. And then later on, maybe we can start carrying some of that some of that good stuff, some of that positive stuff that we can do for the culture to really fight against what we have now and institute for the first time, real Catholic culture for the salvation of souls, not just for the sake of the culture. I want to get that across too. We don't want a Catholic culture because it's cool. It is cool. And you can kind of see that from Europe. If you go to Europe, the traditions they have, some of the ways the cities act and are, the architecture, the city design, all that. And that's great. That's great stuff. But we don't want it just for its own sake. We want it for the sake to help souls, for the salvation of souls, to show them beauty, goodness, truth. So I'm kind of getting to the summary of the whole show here. I'll probably keep doing that. It's the stuff that I'm passionate about, the stuff I'm desiring us to just forge in this life. Is there anything else I wanted to say? I think that might have been it. I did get in some conflict recently with a certain person about my comments on women. I don't think her point was correct. If I fully understood her point. So I might do some talks on Casti Connubii. I'm not sure if I will. It seems like really feminism and husband-wife relations, or just male-female relations, they are the topic. People think it's like politics, or I guess it's part of politics, but people think it's like foreign influence or racial tensions or Republican Democrat or liberal conservative or Catholic Protestant or Catholic Jewish or Christian Muslim, all this different stuff. But in my experience, when I talk about this stuff, in my own small corner of the world, the thing that gets people the most annoyed and frustrated and angry is the question of male-female relations. And I really think I'm just going off of, I joke sometimes, and I know it's radical jokes, and maybe I need to tone it down. Maybe I should keep going. I'm still debating that. I like to have fun. I'm not like a Nick Fuentes. He's a funny guy and he goes hard. I'm not that rambunctious, but I do like to have a good time with it. And there's always the arguments like, oh, if you say it nicer, you might convince more people. I don't know. And I really don't think talking convinces a lot of people. I just enjoy, if people want information, I want to be an information access point. So I'm thinking about that. And I was thinking about doing Cassie Kanubi, talking about the teachings of the church, maybe Arcanum by Pope Leo the 13th. But I'm like, it might just be a waste of time. I might just be, just doing too much. Like, the teaching is there for anyone who wants it. And me really breaking down the teaching like way too much might not be the best thing to help with that. It might just annoy people even more. So I think just stating my position strongly, maybe need more charity, maybe not. Maybe people are sensitive, or maybe I'm just a jerk. That might be possible. But I think just stating my position is what I need to do. And if people need me to go deeper, I can do that. But I've been thinking about that. If you have a comment on that, please let me know in the comments below. I still haven't decided if I'm gonna put my email in, because that just sounds like a lot, but we'll see. We will see. Hopefully, you got some good things in the works for you in terms of long term. But yeah, we'll see about that, and I'll talk about that more if it comes around. But yeah, I think I'll end it there. Please like, subscribe, comment. That would really help me, and the comments really help me, just so I know if I'm helping people or not, hitting the mark on some things I can talk about, right? Some things I can pray about. So just let me know. And until that, yeah, we'll end it there. God bless you. Take it easy and have a blessed Holy Week. I will see you next time.